Hello, everyone. LaRon Henderson here, Collective for Youth Program Quality Director. Hey, want to talk to you for a few minutes about the importance of program planning and reflection. We know that throughout after school, when we plan with the youth and get them to reflect on what we have planned, we're going to have better outcomes for learning. So first, I want to get into Collective for Youth, what we believe, what we don't believe, but really our vision is to develop a community of thriving out of school time partners who are empowered to ignite the imagination and grow the minds of youth. That's what we do. If you are looking at this, ignite the imagination and grow the minds of youth, such a big deal to us. And our mission is to be a connector for advocacy, resources, and training for out of school time providers in Omaha, Nebraska. Now, we do some things nationally, but our main focus is what we do in Omaha, Nebraska. So what we do is our system priorities: partnership support, quality improvement, professional development, collective fundraising and grant management, and data collection, including measurements for youth outcomes. We believe that the data should tell the story about what we're going to do next for young people. We're not just babysitters. We're not just in it to collect some money, but we're really the outcomes, youth outcomes. We want them to be thriving. We want them to be developmental. We want them to be who they're supposed to be once they leave our programs. Objectives for today. We want you to understand the role that planning and reflection play in the experiential learning cycle. We want you to gain experience utilizing plan and reflection strategies. And 3, have the opportunity to explore the ways in which planning and reflection are done in your program. If we do not accomplish that last one and give you practical proven principles that you can use in your program to help with planning and reflection, then we've not done our job. I want an email from you. I want something from you saying, hey, LaRon, you didn't meet those objectives. We need to do something different. Agenda, welcome. We're going to talk about how does planning and reflection benefit youth? What are the adult supports for planning and reflection? And what does it look like in the program? Then we're going to close it all down. So you should have received some materials when you registered for this training or this workshop. You should have received an electronic version, a book that has some good information in it. I'm going to talk about that at the end of our session, but there's some pages that you can follow along and some activities that you're going to be able to do that I'm going to instruct you to throughout this workshop. So if you've been to any of our trainings, if you've been to any of the work that we do, we use the program, the pyramid of program quality. Maslow's hierarchy of needs: safe environment, supportive environment, peer interaction, and youth engagement. Now, planning and reflection are at the top of the pyramid. And I'm going to show you throughout this presentation how you can get to the top of the pyramid with the planning and reflection to give kids the best results. Benefits of planning and reflection. If you turn to page 18 and 19 on your 18 and 19 in your workbook, just going to talk about this for a little bit. Executive functions or skills are developed to take or believed to take place in the prefrontal cortex and include planning, predicting, and decision making. If you think of a youth brain, if you think of your brain, the prefrontal cortex is where planning, prediction, and decision making take place. So asking youth to plan and reflect allows them to practice these important brain functions. It is okay to help young people's brains explode, to challenge them, to give them some rigor to make it happen. So planning and reflection will help with that. Self-regulated learning. Self-regulated learning is a term used in education and psychology to describe youth taking charge of their own learning. Engaging youth in planning and reflection are keys to supporting self-regulated learning. When you have, even with us, when you have someone who is planning what they want to do, reflecting on what they've done, Now they can only make themselves responsible for for the outcome. Now you can guide them, you can help them, you can lead them along, but when they take responsibility, that's called self-regulated learning. How does it support? On page 7 and 8, support for planning. I'm going to talk about planning first, but planning, remember this, planning is choice with intention. Planning is choice with intention. 4 ways that adults can support youth in planning are these: include time for planning and activities, give youth tools for planning, make planning explicit, and model planning. Let me go back. Include time for planning and activities. When you're putting together your lesson plans, there should be some time in there for youth to plan what they're going to do, the choice how they're going to do it. It may be a process choice, it may be a content choice, but they are planning what they're going to do. You may come to program and you have the lesson plan finished, but really give them time to get engaged in the planning process. It's going to make that activity so much better. And then give them the tools. They may need help. They may need ideas. They may need paper. They may need pens. They may need whatever it is, blocks. They may need designs of whatever you're doing in your program. That's what they need. And then make planning explicit. Just be intentional about planning. This is a time where I want you to plan for what you're going to do. So if you're drawing something, you're going to sketch it out first and then put it on paper. Or if you're going to write a story, here's a rough draft to the story. Now we're going to take the pieces of your rough draft and make it a story. So I hope that makes sense. On page 10, there are a few scenarios for you to look at. And what I want you to do after I finish giving these instructions, I want you to stop the video, turn to page 10 in your workbook, examine the scenarios. And I want you to ask yourself these 3 questions. How might you engage these young people in planning? 1. 2, what are some potential pitfalls young people might encounter in the scenarios that you have? And 3, how might you help them overcome these obstacles? 3 questions. How are you going to engage? How might you engage these young people? Pitfalls and obstacles. So what I want you to do is take about 5-10 minutes or however long you need. This is a recording. Stop the video, take a minute, look at those scenarios, answer yourself those questions. If you're working with a group, get everybody involved. Talk about it. All right? I'll see you in about, 5-10 minutes. As soon as you start, you'll hear me talking again. How was that activity? Hopefully you benefit. You found some benefit in thinking about the scenarios. You looked at how you could plan. You looked at the pitfalls, and you've come to some conclusions. You come to some conclusions. But what happens when young people plan? They do a number of different things. Now I'm gonna let you look at this slide. But one of the things that I'm going to emphasize on is they consider their own thinking. Many times we do not know what young people are thinking because we never ask. And when you get into the planning and reflection, you get into their minds, the steps that they've taken to get to where they're supposed to go. And they take on a curious attitude. Curiosity. I know when I was growing up, playing pretend or playing make-believe was always fun because now you could create anything you want. And then that critical time when someone says, LaRon, it's time to grow up, then that curiosity left. I don't think it ever left me. I think I've been curious, and I think that's just the way my mind thinks. But read these. If you need to stop the video, think about those. Think about when young people plan, they do all those things. All right. Little reflection during this training. How have you reflected on activities or an activity that you have done? And then what did you gain from taking time to reflect on the activities. You went through the scenarios a few minutes ago, looked at the scenarios. Here's what the scenario said. But I just want you to take some time to think about how you can include planning and reflection in your daily activity, because planning and reflection, you don't have to wait until the end of a lesson to reflect. You don't have to wait at the beginning of a session to plan. You can reflect at the beginning and plan at the end what you're going to do next time. So now let's look at reflection. Reflection is remembering with analysis. Remembering with analysis. Four ways that adults can support youth in reflection. 1, include time for reflection and activities. Ask questions to deepen learning. Make reflection explicit and model reflection. Pretty self-explanatory, huh? But as I said when we were talking about planning, if you do not put time in for reflection, it may not happen. If it's not something that's ingrained in you and it's not something that you do on a regular basis, if it's not intentional, you're not going to reflect. But asking questions like, well, help me understand this process. What were you doing this? Why did you do that? Can you tell me the steps that you went through? Very, very important to deepen the learning, because they may just do it because it's in their memory. They may have never thought about how to do it. For example, I worked at a job at one point where we had to write down the steps to taking a shower. Now, you guys, you're thinking, you may be thinking, now I've taken hundreds or thousands of showers, but the process, trying to teach somebody the planning process, the reflection process of how do you take a shower, the steps to taking a shower, there's so many different ways, but writing that down, it caused me just to, okay, wow. Maybe there is another way, more than one way to take a shower. So let me keep going. When young people reflect, and I'm gonna spend some time here, they recapture experiences. They consider how their feelings connect to experiences. They evaluate experiences. They connect experiences to their own ideas on how the world works. They refine their understanding. They learn. They engage in critical thinking. They recognize accomplishments, and they make new plans. When you reflect on what you have already planned, now you can do something different if it didn't work out, or you can improve it. So important. Now, I hope it was short, but in your workbook, you have activities, you have different things that you can do, but I just want to emphasize a couple things. In your guidebook, in your workbook, on page 30 to 32, it talks about sharing, planning, and reflection with others. Pages 14 to 15, plan, do, reflect, and experiential learning. Across age, group, and content area. The way that we would teach and the way that we would instruct an elementary school kid to plan and reflect may be different than a young person in middle school or high school. And then one of the most important, if you want to know more about the research of planning and reflection and how it affects youth development, on pages 76 through 83 in your workbook, that's where they talk about that. Questions, comments, concerns, you can email me, lhenderson@collectiveforyouth.org, or you can give me a call, give me a text, give me a call at 402-253-6961. I hope this information was relevant and useful to you today. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.